Hello, dear students. Good morning and welcome once again to this online lecture. Well, in today's lecture, I will be talking about non-verbal communication. Well, before I move any further, let's have a look at the outline of today's talk. Well, in today's talk, I'll be starting with types of communication, and I will be telling you what are different types of communication, and then I'll be straight away taking you to non-verbal communication, which is of course an important type of communication. And then we'll go on to discuss importance of non-verbal communication, and towards the end of my talk I will be discussing different type of non-verbal communication, and then we will conclude. All right. So, first of all, let's see what is communication. Communication is the exchange of thoughts or information to convey different messages by using the verbal, written, or non-verbal medium. This is communication. So, it's a two-way process. Now, what are different types of communication? If we look at this diagram, then we can see that communication is basically of three types. One is verbal communication, mean communication using words, and the other is written communication, that is communication that is written. And the difference between verbal communication and written communication is that in verbal communication we communicate orally, and in written communication we write down and communicate. And non-verbal communication is another type of communication that is we will be discussing in detail today. So let's see what is non-verbal communication. Before I explain what is non-verbal communication, I would like to share this quote with you, that the most important thing in communication is hearing what is not said. So, non-verbal communication is basically a speechless communication in which expressions are used to communicate or express rather than words. So, it includes body language, facial expression, gestures, the way we dress, the way we act, the way we stand, and even our scent. So, you can see our facial expressions. I have shared 6 pictures. They show different emotions such as anger, joy, surprise, disgust, sadness, and fear. This is also non-verbal communication. And I often say to my students that even when we are silent, we are communicating. Silent is the best speech. And non-verbal communication is very important. Before I go on to discuss the importance of non-verbal communication, I would like to give you an example from our Eastern culture. In the Eastern culture, when there is the marriage ceremony and the lawyer of the bridegroom goes to the groom, to the bride, for seeking her consent, then the bride remains silent. So this silence is also communication, that she agrees. Okay? So that silence is sending a very powerful message. So if we look at research, then we will come to know that communication consists of different things. Body language makes up 55% of communication, paralanguage 38%, and verbal content makes up 7%. There are 5 main effects that non-verbal communication can have. The first thing is repetition. They can reinforce what is already being said. For example, if you want to convey to somebody that you love him or her, then you express verbally that I love you very much. And then non-verbal communication, that is your handshake, the smile on your face, the way you look towards that person reinforces what you are orally saying. And the other way non-verbal communication works is contradiction. They can contradict the message and make the speaker seem untruthful. For example, you meet somebody and you say to him or her that I am very much interested in him, and at the same time you are looking at your mobile using social media, then your non-verbal communication is contradicting what you are saying. So another thing which non-verbal communication does is substitution. They can take the place of words. Sometimes you are silent, but then you have you know tears in your eyes that says more than words, that substitutes for the oral communication. And sometimes it complements. They can complement a verbal message. For instance, a pat on the back. If you give a pat on the back to somebody, then it means you're encouraging that person. And accenting, they can underline a certain point in the message. So you can see non-verbal communication works in so many different ways. So if we look at non-verbal communication, its types, then posture, body language, eye contact, blinking, tone of voice, facial expressions, smell, chime, personal presentation, gestures, pitch of voice, all these are types of non-verbal communication. And in the world of communication, they have got different names. So I will be explaining them one by one. So the first type of communication that I will be talking about is kinesics, and it is simplicity. Sometime in a simple way, it's called body language, and it deals with physical movements, sometimes called affective displays, and it deals with posture in standing and sitting. The way we sit, the way we stand, it's also part of non-verbal communication, as well as with eye and facial expressions, such as the arching of eyebrows or rolling of the eyes. And we must remember one thing in our mind, that kinesics vary culturally. For example, a person of Mediterranean culture may use extensive hand movements and body gestures as an expression of anger. Kinesics also include the use of smiling, frowning, giggling, and so on, which also differs by culture. But there are certain things which are universal to every culture. For example, smiling. If you smile, it shows happiness. And if there are tears in your eyes, it shows that you are sad, you're unhappy. So the second type of non-verbal communication is Occulesics. It deals with eye behavior as an element of communication. Some aspects of Occulesics deal with a static or fixed gaze versus dynamic eye movement. In Japan, it's more common to look at the throat of the other person, whereas in China and Indonesia, the practice is to lower the eyes because direct eye contact is considered bad manners. On the other hand, in Arab culture, it is common for both speakers and listeners to look directly into each other's eyes for long periods of time, indicating keen interest in the conversation. So we can see this eye behavior or the eye movement varies from culture to culture. And the third type of non-verbal communication is proxemics. It involves the social use of space in a communication situation. It also deals with the effective use of space in social settings, such as business and homes, ranging and the arrangement of space to encourage or inhibit communication. One aspect of this is the closeness between and among people when they speak. For example, 0 to 18 inches distance is referred to as intimate space, and 18 inches to 4 feet refers to personal space or informal distance. 4 to 12 feet is referred to as social space or formal distance, and beyond 12 feet is public space or distance. Haptics. It focuses on touching as an element of communication. Like many other elements of non-verbal communication, haptics is very much a function of culture, and it varies from culture to culture. For example, Mediterranean or Middle Eastern and Latin American cultures, they employ much social touching in conversation, including embraces and hand holding. They are called high contact or high touch cultures. Here I would like to give you the example of the Arab culture, that is Middle Eastern culture. So you might have seen people meeting each other in the Arab culture. Whenever they meet each other, the males especially, they hug each other and they kiss each other. So this is very common in Middle Eastern culture. But in the American culture, this is not appreciated. So if suppose if a business person from American culture and from the Arab culture meet each other, then the Arab will try to welcome the American counterpart by kissing him, by hugging him, and the American business person, unaware of the Arab culture, will be moving away from the his Arab business counterpart. So the result may be that the business communication may fail. In moderate touch cultures such as North America and Northern Europe, touching is used only occasionally, such as in handshakes and sporadic shoulder touching or back slapping. In low contact cultures such as in Northern Asian cultures, social touching is rarely used at all. Now, Vocalics, also called paralanguage. It deals with vocal cues, more accurately referred to as the non-phonemic qualities of language. These include accent, loudness, tempo, pitch, rate of speech, nasality, and tone, as these convey meaning. In Arab culture, speaking loudly connotes sincerity. In North America, it often is interpreted as aggressive. So, in order to make a communication successful, we must keep in mind the importance of nonverbal communication and the way it works in different cultures. So, the other type of nonverbal communication is chronomics. It deals with the use of time as an element of communication. Chronomics involves specifics such as punctuality along with patterns of dominance or deference within a communication situations. Also consider the use of monochronomics. Mono mean one and chronomics mean time. So monochronomics mean doing one thing at a time. Emphasis on schedules and promptness, getting to the point quickly, versus polychronomics. Poly means many, so it means doing several things at a time, emphasis on people and the whole of a relationship. Now, someone may ask why time is part of non-verbal communication. Well, time is or chronomics is a very important part of communication. For example, if you if you orally tell somebody that you are interested in a job or you are interested in a person, and then you reach to meet that person late, it shows that what you are saying orally, your non-verbal communication contradicts that. On the other hand, if you tell somebody that you are really eager to meet him or her and you reach there before time, it shows that whatever you are saying orally, that is true, because your non-verbal behavior, that is your reaching there ahead of time, supports what you are saying verbally. So you can see how the use of time acts to you know support or contradict verbal communication. So the other thing is appearance. It deals with the communication role played by a person's look or physical appearance, and it deals with physical aspects of body shape, hair color, and skin tone, as well as grooming, dress, both clothing and jewelry, and use of appearance enhancements such as body piercings, brandings, and tattoos. Attire is an essential part of non-verbal communication among areas influenced by Arab culture. The Arab and North African head covering with different bands of cloth and the color of the robes, white at daytime, dark at night, are more than fashion statements. Among North and Western Africans, public speakers prefer long robes and big sleeves so that when they raise their hands, extra sleeve cloths slips through the arms and puffs up their shoulder, making them look bigger and more elegant. Now, the other type of nonverbal communication is environment. It involves the communicative value of the physical space, such as room size, color, accessibility, and location. Business people, for example, assume significant meaning about desk size, offices with or without windows, and so on. Generally, it is assumed that the most important people in a company occupy the uppermost floor in a building. So, artifacts. It deals with communicative aspect of apparent objects visible in the room, arts, possessions, and so on. In some societies, much meaning is presumed by one's choice of automobile. Artifacts also have cultural significance. And here I would like to give you the example of Western countries where lots of people have pets, and pets have great emotional significance. If we look at the Arabs, then Arabs, they give great value to the rugs because they are considered prestigious. So, olfactics is an aspect of non-verbal communication, and it deals with smells. Olfactics might include the use of perfume and spices. In some high contact cultures, such as the Samoan or Arab, it is customary to get close enough in conversation to smell the other person. Arabs and religious Muslims are known for using perfumes according to the teaching of Prophet that it is a charity to smell nice for others. So, before I conclude or before I end my today's talk, I would like to tell you that non-verbal communication is as important, if not more important, than verbal communication is. And it not only supports or accentuates to what we are saying, but sometimes it offers to contradict what we are saying verbally. And it some of the non-verbal things vary from culture to culture, but there are others which are universal. For example, dressing. If you dress well, then it shows your interest. For example, if there is some death and you wear a red dress and you remain silent, you do not say anything, your red dress shows that you are happy. But if you wear a black dress and you don't say anything, even then it shows that you're sad. So your appearance, your dressing, your smile, your posture, your gesture, the way you stand, the way you sit, the way you move your eyes, the way you look at a person, or even your silence is meaningful. So, if we want to be excellent communicators, we must give attention to non-verbal communication. And if we want to control the word, first of all, we must control our bodies. So, thank you very much. Let me see you next week.